Let's bring in the very beautiful inside and out. I am not kidding. You're going to love him. Marco Antonio Regil. Marco, thanks for being with me today.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Well, maybe we should talk a little bit about how you went vegan, how this came to be for you.
Well, I mean, it's like in my dark past, I always say when I go to festivals, I speak very often. Well, I used to before COVID-19. I used to speak a lot in these festivals, been in Minnesota and Washington, New York, Mexico, Tulum, many places. I always tell them that I used to be the face of McDonald's in Mexico for about 3 years. 13 years
Wow.
ago. 13 years ago, before being vegan, well, 15 years ago, before being vegan, and I endorsed. I was the face of McDonald's for 2 or 3 years. I can't remember. I was the face of Nestle. We toured Mexico promoting the milks of Nestle.
Wow.
I worked with Frito Lay. I worked with all those companies because that's what I was
Wow.
doing. I was on television, prime time, great shows, and those were the sponsors, and I didn't know better than that. So when I tell them, if I made the change, anyone can make the change, because for me it was not only a lifestyle thing, because I was heavy carnivore. For
Wow.
me, a meal without meat was not a meal. So if I did that and I let go, I mean, it cost me a lot of money because I did have to let go of a lot of income that was coming from those sponsors. And I just, what happened to me is I watched the documentaries. The first one I watched was Glass Walls with Paul McCartney, that
Yeah.
PETA amazing documentary that is available on YouTube. That was even before Forks Over Knives and Game Changers and all of these amazing documentaries. That was just one that showed the animal cruelty. And in my heart, it was really clear that I did not want it to be aligned with exploitation, suffering, or anything that would make another living being suffer. So
Mm,
for me, it was the same reason. As a kid, I would cry when I hear the Jesus story of being crucified and all of that.
mm,
And I didn't like what they did to the African Americans when I watched the movies and documentaries about the
mhm,
slavery, or what the Spaniards did to
mm.
the Latin American indigenous people. Well, when I looked at what was happening to the animals, I said, this is exactly the same thing, and I just do not want to be a part of the any dynamic where we're torturing someone in order to survive when we don't need to do that. And that was it. So it cost me a lot of money, but like I say it all the time, if I made the change, anyone, believe me, anyone can make the change.
Well, so I told you, everybody, what's not to love. So thank you so much for doing that. And for the way you explain it, I love what you say, that you just don't want to be a part of anything that
No.
causes suffering. And so when you see African Americans suffering and, Roots, maybe you watched that, or we all know the facts. So we obviously, George Floyd, I mean, we're seeing violence every day today, or, used to not be
I
a crime to have domestic violence. That used to
no.
be acceptable at home, these sorts of things. So
Yeah.
you don't want to see any kind of suffering like that. And why would it be any different with animals?
Why would it be
So,
any different? I just watched the 13th on Netflix. Have you watched that
oh,
documentary? Highly recommend it to anyone. Me as an immigrant, I'm a US citizen now, but I came to the US 20 years ago and I became a citizen. And when I watch this, I go like, oh my God, this is a part of the history of this country I didn't know. And the same thing with the animals. Once I know, uh, is like I don't I want to be a part of a positive change, and I want to be a part of this, because the problem is not the problem of African Americans. It's not the problem of the animals. It's not the problem of gay people. It's not the problem of women. It's our problem, because we have been a part, one way or another. We have been a part of this unfairness and inequality in the world. So it's about, let's stop it. Let's stop it right now. Let's be a part of this positive change. That's it.